Hello and welcome to Empyrion, Galactic Survival, Reforged Eden Custom Scenario, version 1.10. I am Winslow, and we are working on the survey missions from the UCH research vessel. And these can be quick missions. I decided to take a long way to do them because I'm also heading to the moons, the barren moons that are in the starter systems, to catalog and form a list of all of the Polaris trade corporate POIs that are in the seat. So that when I am going to be doing trading, I will have kind of a master list of, at least in these four systems, who is where and what is where. So to start, the survey missions for each of the four systems are essentially identical. They have you go to a variety of planets or moons and then an asteroid field. None of the named planets, all of the like Alpha 2, Epsilon 3, Delta 4, etc. You're going to be visiting a moon, a barren moon, or a traditional moon like we've got here, where Polaris will have not trade stations, but they'll have corporate manufacturers that you can trade with. But each of those stations or POIs, they have a task that they need you to do, and it's generally just bringing them some inexpensive piece of equipment or raw materials. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of traveling to find them, but once you get a couple unlocked, getting many of them unlocked is pretty quick because you can buy at one place and then turn in at another. They're different for each POI, but the specific type of company POI, like the Pentaxid refinery, is always going to ask for like one of two or three different things. So I'm going around and cataloging those so that, again, when I'm doing trade later, basically when I'm having to dump off large amounts of goods, I can easily do that. Many of them will just buy like manufactured goods like computers or capacitors or things like that, and they pay a fairly decent price, and they will buy, in some cases, several thousand of them. So you can make a lot of money fast. In the survey missions, again, you'll visit one moon, one standard type barren moon like we have here on planet Earth. Then you will visit an arid planet, a snow planet, a barren planet, which is usually irradiated and filled with lots of promethium, pentaxid, and alien POIs. Those are a lot of fun to adventure on, but you need some radiation protection. And then an asteroid field. And once you complete all of those, once you visit all of those sites, you'll get the survey completed data. And then once you complete all four survey missions, you will get a special reward. Each of them gives you some good rewards. And then also you get some bonus money and rewards for unlocking trade in the Polaris POIs. Especially if you go to the Pentaxid refinery, they give you free fuel. So I spent a lot of time on these planets. This whole trip for Epsilon, doing every planet and every moon, took me about 3 hours to fully uncover everything. Now, I didn't fully survey all of the planets. I just did the moons and then got the quest marker for the planets. But you also want to make sure that you keep your head on a swivel while you're flying around, because you will be flying around through enemy territory. And like I had just done there, the drone base has a long range, and they can damage your shields pretty quick. And once your shields are done, your ship is mostly done, unless you have a heavily armored combat vessel. Now, the other benefit of doing the Polaris trade missions is they pay you. They will generally pay you in excess of whatever it was to buy the goods that you had to bring to them, or if you were able to manufacture them. And you get reputation gain. The reputation gain is nice because eventually you will not get punished for mining in their territory, though if you mine asteroids that are claimed by them, you will immediately go to hostile or unfriendly, and they will then start attacking you. So don't mine claimed asteroids. But the other side benefit of having higher reputation is you get a discount on goods and services. And I think it's up to 20% when you're fully honored. And that can save you a lot, especially if you're like going to their station to refuel and just using station services to buy fuel, oxygen, or pentaxid. You can get it at a 20% discount. You can also sell things at a higher 20% discount. Money isn't super necessary in Empyrion. It's nice to have some money for when you are just trying to do a quick build and you need an upgrade kit that you don't have. You can go to a trade station and buy an upgrade kit. Or if you're needing optronic matrices or bridges when you're trying to build higher CPUs, it's nice to be able to just go to a trade station and buy those rather than find gold and smelt the gold bars and then build the computers. So it's a convenience, really, to have money and be able to buy these things. So mostly what we have as far as the... Let me open up the spreadsheet that I did, because I cataloged all of these. You can do trades at the gas refinery. There's Vitalife Pharmaceuticals, Interweapon Munitions, the Gold Standard Warehouse, Thermal Interactions Limited, Chemix Industrial, the Solaris Amp Factory, P3 Planetside Production, and Chroma Sierra Services are the ones that I found. Also, there's Pentaxid Refinery, the Pentacorp Station, which you can get cheap fuel, and I think that's it. I also found a lot of silver deposits, which are needed for some high-end crafting. It's nice that they're in the starter systems in single player and multiplayer. Mostly by the time you get to them, they're going to be gone, because they don't respawn and there's no meteorites and there's no silver asteroids in space. Silver's a pretty rare commodity. You can get a lot of it later on, but when you're starting, there's not very much available. Each of the different types of trade POIs will buy and sell different stuff. There's not a lot of information on the internet about who does what or where, but there is a spreadsheet. Let me pull up the traders sheet here that I will link in the description of the video, that by name will tell you who sells what, who buys and sells what, and what playfield you might find them in. Now, keep in mind that the playfields change based on the seed, so my own personal catalog, unless you're using the same seed, is not going to help you. But this is a Reforged Eden Traders spreadsheet that some folks in, I believe, Spange's community put together, or at least that's where I got it. So it's super helpful, so that if you have something you need to buy, it's helpful to at least know who sells it and then where to look. But it takes a lot of time to find all that stuff. Now, as far as what I'm doing here is I'm just heading toward the lava moon, because I'm not sure if there's any Polaris POIs on here, but I just want to see what is there. Most moons are good for crashed capital vessels, and those are good salvage. You can generally get thrusters, sometimes weapons. You can get fuel, oxygen, crafting stations, fridges, if you can locate them. And it's more convenient searching moons most of the time than searching planets for stuff like this, because moons are smaller. It's much faster, though sometimes planets have a lot more stuff. Like the barren metal planets have an absurd amount of resources on them, but they're also heavily protected by anti-aircraft turrets. The ocean planets tend to have a lot of defense and production, like enemy 0x production. They have a lot of factories because it's a habitable world. You'll see that on temperate or on ocean, sometimes on snow planets. But it looks like I found another crashed capital vessel like the one I had on the Dread Starter, which means it's going to have an advanced thruster, which I want, so that I can have 2 on my ship. And I just need to clear out the drones. So they don't bother me while I'm salvaging. I like having the sentry guns target drones rather than other weapons, even later on. Because the problem with some of the turrets later on is they have a much longer targeting range than sentries. And normally that's not an issue when you're on a planet with an atmosphere. But when there's no atmospheric density, they have the same range as out in space, which is in many cases up to 900 meters away. So the game will recognize that there's a drone or an enemy to attack within that range, but the drone itself won't render in, and because it won't render in, it won't take damage. So your Gatlings, your cannons, any of your laser stuff, if they're set to attack drones other than sentries, they will just fire endlessly into the void and never hit anything. And will just go through all of your ammo. So I just keep the only guns that I keep for drone defense is typically sentries. Now, if I'm later on, if I'm going into like a Xerax asteroid field, I'll put all of my kinetics on them, because the interceptors and interdictors will swarm you, and there's some cases, you'll get like 30 at once, which they won't really hurt you, they'll just annoy you, but you'll need more than just sentry guns for that. So okay, so I've landed, I've got the capital vessel here, and we're going to go ahead and get the advanced thruster. We love free engine parts, right? Love free thrusters. And with an advanced tool, it's pretty quick. And I'll just do a once through on the ship just to see. I don't really need medium thrusters for many things anymore. I just want to make sure there's no alien loot boxes or anything here. I don't think there is in this POI. And if I'm missing it, well, then I miss it. Which, you know, is unfortunate, but they're probably just the regular ones, which means they'd have ammo, a couple ingots, and force fields. I don't know why force fields are so common in alien loot. I wish that they weren't. But that's all I'm going to salvage from this ship. I wish that that it was an actual ship, not a base, so that I could retrofit it and see what it would be like flying. But we're going to go ahead and take this thruster out. Remember, whenever you are removing components from an existing ship, you need to disable your shields. So as you're doing that, you need to make sure that you are doing that in a relatively safe location, because without shields, drones can sneak up, or enemy ground forces can sneak up and can punch holes right through your ship. Especially if you're near like an enemy Xerax POI, there are going to be lots of Xerax ground troops out and about. Especially on like a snow planet. That's usually where I will go if I need to kill lots of Xerax for like the class quest, or if I'm trying to farm rep with like pirates or any of the other factions. Because as you kill Xerax, all of the other factions will like you. Okay, so I've got two advanced thrusters now. And that reminds me of the little robot from Batteries Not Included. That'll show how old I am. And close up the hole. Fix my paint job. There, just like brand new. And you can paint the thruster output with your multi-tool or your paint tool. Sometimes it's nice for them to just not be the same color. Okay, lots of planets to visit. And don't forget to turn your shields back on, because otherwise you will blow up and die. Because I added a new advanced thruster, it's more taxing on my generator. So you see that my generator usage on my sidebar is turning to red as my shields are charging. Because with shields charging and thrusters in full blast, it's a bit much for my 4 small generators to withstand. Your generators will eventually take damage and then can ultimately blow up. So you got to make sure that you are mindful of that when you are building and using a ship and upgrading it. Okay, so I'm at the end of the Epsilon mission now. These are the rewards you get, which is pretty nice. I like doing this because when you do all 4 systems, you then have the basic components for 4 auto miners. And it's best to just save your miner cores for the tier 3 auto miner or the level 25 auto miner. Don't bother building the 1 or 2. It's a waste of your resources. Big things that you need for it is auto miner cores and laser upgrade kits. So we will get those through trade But I am going to fast forward through time, and I am going to hit up Alpha, Beta, and Delta, and we will catch up when we're near the end of that. I'm going to hit all of the moons that I can and catalog and get through as much rep and money for trading as I'm able to with this little ship. So I'll see you then. It took me a whole day to do the other 3 system surveys. I think it was a total of, with all of the moons and all of the trading, about 12 hours. So that would be really hard to record and very boring to try to edit into something more than I've already done. So here we are, right at the end of it. We're going to hit up a barren planet, which we have not seen yet. And I've also cataloged a lot of the ships that are in orbit, and on whether or not any of the planets have ships, have patrol vessels, so I can come back later. I've seen a lot of Polaris ships, some colonist ships, and just a handful of Xerax ships. But barren planets are really good for fuel production. Barren and alien planets, you'll see alien planets once you leave the starter systems. Because they have a lot of promethium, they have a lot of pentaxid, and they typically also have, they can have erestrum, which is needed for some thruster parts and high-end material, or zascosium. Which is also needed for high-end crafting. It's important to remember when you're out and about, if you're going to be picking things up by hand or mining or using the factory to spawn in ships or bases, that you're doing it in neutral territory. You're not doing it in claimed territory like Polaris territory, because you lose reputation when you do that. And if you are low enough on neutral and spawn in a ship, Polaris will attack and will blow up your new ship. I've done it. I've seen it happen. It's very unpleasant. So you just want to be mindful of where you're at. The last asteroid field. We're going to head there. Asteroid fields are good for basic resources, your basic building blocks, iron, copper, silica, cobalt. Rarely you'll find some of the more rare resources. Sathium, neodymium, zascosium, and erestrum. And then very rarely you'll find gold asteroids or platinum. And then there's also, later on, you'll find rich asteroid mining in dense ice fields. You can harvest, this is in Reforged only, you can harvest ice asteroids with special mining lasers, and then after that you can build and harvest the rich asteroids for special ores, which you can then break down for basic materials. And I'm sure once I get to that point, I will be doing a what's up video on that, or a how to, or something along those lines. So right now I finished the last one. I'm going to get to the UCH ship, and we're going to turn in our reward. All of the other rewards, the individual system rewards, you just open up your PDA and go to your quest log, your solo quest, and you can complete it there. Then by exiting out, you will get your rewards. But the final big reward, which was just fixed with 1.10 with a hotfix, is you go to a UCH research vessel, you go to the lead researcher, and then you can turn all of the reports in. So let me show you that. Okay, the lead researcher is right in between the schematic and the research computers. With all 4 survey reports in your inventory, you can just talk to them. And I have some reports to turn in. Yes. Goodbye. And you get some bits and pieces. You get a UCH research beacon, that'll allow you in certain sectors to summon a UCH research ship. Navigational data, which you can turn in to increase your jump range. There's also data chips and data pads, which you can turn in for unlock points. You get a decorative poster, which you have so many decorative posters, and then you get some optronics pieces, which are useful in crafting high-end CPU components and some specific crafting bits. But as for now, that's it for the surveys. And moving forward, I am going to be scouting out nearby systems. I am going to be looking for a colonist scrapyard. So we'll catch up then. I'll see you next time.